Well, we've had a week off, but we somehow appear to have come back even more knackered than before we left. That's holidays for you.
This is Partners in Crime with Adam Croft and Robert Dawes.
Happy Friday, my little Bobbykins.
Thank you very much indeed, Ads. Yeah, well, it's lovely to be back. It really is. I mean, a week off is... we had just had so much on this week, didn't we? I mean, you've been book launching, you've been directing plays, I've been filming. You know, it's been one of those things, and it's quite nice to come back to this oasis of sanity that is Partners in Crime.
I've also been painting and decorating. As you can see, look at the state of my hands.
Oh.
I've literally been, up until you turned up earlier, I was, as you can see, elbow deep
He is
in gloss paint.
Quite honestly, listeners, absolutely plastered in the paint. It's just as well we haven't got the camera on this one. Because
yeah, that's true.
But I have to say, the house is looking marvellous, if any of you are interested.
It will do once the floor's done next week.
Well, the floor, there's a hard floor going down where once was soft, cushy carpet. But it will look marvellous.
That's young children in the house. It's a case of necessity, and cats chucking up on carpets just doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. Anyway, so you've actually had to move to the west wing of your house while all this work has been carried out. It looks very nice. I mean, it's work in progress, but I have to say...
Nearly there.
Nearly there, yes.
Week off was required. But as actually, some people listening to this might have known about the painting thing already, because I've put a picture up on my my new Instagram account, which is something that I've introduced recently. I think since the last episode, in the last couple of weeks. I've been told by people left, right, and centre, I need to be on Instagram, and I've never seen the point really. But there's a lovely lady called Caroline who works for me, and she said that. She does sort of the PR and that side of things, and she said, you need to be on Instagram. So I thought, well, you know what, I'll do it. And we set it up, and she showed me how it works. I've got another friend of mine, writer friend, who uses it heavily, and she ran me through, and we met them for lunch, and she talked about how to use it, and I've now taken Instagram under my wing, and I'm now an Instagrammer.
Marvellous. Well, may I introduce you to this? It's called The Wheel. It's very useful, and I think you'll find it...
Are you going to tell me you were on Instagram before me?
I am actually. That's exactly what I'm going to say. I have been on Instagram. I mean, you are Gandalf. You know.
I mean, you're on it, but have you been using it?
You are Dumbledore in these these particular areas. But I have to say, this is because I am surrounded by very young people. My daughters, my son, countless nephews and nieces, and they've all said, "Look, Uncle Bob or Dad, you've really got to,
as you're otherwise known,
you've really got to get with it." They didn't say get with it, of course. That's just me. They said, "Come on, Facebook, forget this, forget that. You've got to be on Instagram." So I'm on Instagram. I think I've got 4 pictures on Instagram, each one carefully thought out, and with several months between each contribution. But it is something, like your good self, that I am very open-minded about, and I will continue to take photographs and various other things. I mean, my natural inclination is, as a not being an author or an actor, is to go, do you open up every part of your life? But the thing is, as a writer and as an actor, it's part of your business, and so you have to do these things. So any medium which actually helps and in that respect has got to be embraced, I suppose.
Well,
so
I've just looked up your Instagram actually, and yes, you have got 4 posts. You've got 143 followers. I just hit 200 this morning, so I'm outdoing you on that front. But
did you just hear a gauntlet being thumped to the ground?
Well, to be honest, your account is set to private, which is... Isn't
that what you're supposed to do?
Oh, no, Instagram 101. No, nobody can see your posts, can they? How do they know if they want to follow you or not? They're just going, well, that's that bloke off of Jeeves and Worcester. Why should I follow him?
Oh, I see. So I've got to actually change my setting, have I?
I would.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, people say, oh, well, I don't want it to be public. I want it to be private, but I just don't put anything on there that I wouldn't want the public to see.
But this is entirely, you know, I'm a shy, retiring wallflower by nature. It's just what I do demands different things. Okay, I'll change that as soon as I get back. And,
well, that's what I've spent my week doing. I think I've transformed actually since the last episode. Not only have I been doing some decorating, which I don't often do, I've joined Instagram, which I've never done, and I've also not only watched but enjoyed 2 episodes of Doctor Who.
Doctor Whom,
to make it grammatically correct. I've always had this thing about sci-fi and fantasy where I've always gone, I would love to be able to get it. It really, really appeals to me, the idea. Yeah. And I've tried numerous ways in. I've tried Dune, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. The closest, actually, was the first series of, Game of Thrones.
Oh, yes.
Watched the first series and my brain went, okay, brilliant. It's historical, it's the War of the Roses, that kind of thing. And then a dragon came in at the end of the first series. My brain just went, nope, not having it.
Really? Well, that's interesting. So Doctor Who, I'm not caught up with the latest version, but I did get through the post the other day, a 3 CD box set. Yes, I still have a CD. I did a Doctor Who, and there's this wonderful company that does all the Doctor Who's on audio, and what they do is they've quite brilliantly done it. They've taken all the Doctors individually, and they have storylines for all the Doctors, from William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, up to Matt Smith, and Jodie Whittaker will be the new one as well, and Peter Capaldi, and whatever. And they produce these extraordinary adventures, and I did one at the beginning of the year, a William Hartnell one. So William Hartnell is no longer with us, the very first Doctor Who. So what they did have was his first assistants, which were Maureen O'Brien, actress Maureen O'Brien, and Peter Purvis of Blue Peter fame, if you're in the UK. Yeah. He was one of the first presenters of Blue Peter. So I got there and I thought, well, who's going to be playing William Hartnell? And Peter Purvis did both. Oh. He does the most wonderful impersonation of the late lamented William Hartnell, the first Doctor. So not only did he play himself, playing the character he played back in the 1960s, he also plays the first Doctor Who. So, and I played the baddie, of course, sneering and whining and whinging and what have you. And I was just listening to a little bit of it yesterday, and they do a great job. They really do. So anyone who likes Doctor Who, and let's face it, there's lots of intergalactic crimes going on there, so it does come under the umbrella of the show to some degree, and dastardly, and that's just the Daleks. They're well worth listening to. Put them on in the car or when you get 5 minutes, and they're incredibly high production standards, and with the exception of probably having to listen to me on a couple of them, excellent.
Obviously people don't mind that if they're listening to this.
Yes.
I think the reason I liked the 2 episodes that I watched is because they were set on Earth, basically. They were one of them was
in mid-beds?
Not quite, no, not far off. One was in Sheffield. It had sort of giant overgrown spiders. I thought, I can deal with that. Scientific loopholes aside. And one previous was a story of Rosa Parks, which obviously really appeals because I'm very much into my history and political history. So I loved watching that, and that was, obviously, police phone boxes flying through space aside, I could relate to that, and I could watch it. I thought it was really good. I always watch the first episode when there's a new Doctor as well, even though I haven't got a clue what's going on.
You just like to see the transformation.
It's the drama, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been a huge success for the BBC, and it's got fans all around the world. So well, there we are. That's Doctor Who, which leads me quite nicely to my recommendation. And it's not a book this week; it's a television program. It's called Condor, and it's on Universal. And I started watching it.
I did misread that off your notes just a minute ago.
Well, did you?
I thought that said condom.
No, that's a comedy half-hour series. Yeah. This is. He says, "Oh dear, let me just take a second." Condor is an American television series based on the novel 6 Days of the Condor by James Grady, and that was, in actual fact, a 1975 film, an adaptation of that book called 3 Days of the Condor, which is one of my all-time favourite books. It was Robert Redford starred in it with Cliff Robertson, and a great book. I can remember seeing it in my early teens and thinking, wow, that's extraordinary. Anyway, it is now a television series, updated for the 21st century. And here's the premise. A young CIA analyst, Joe Turner, whose idealism is tested when he stumbles onto a terrible but brilliant plan that threatens the lives of millions. Turner is an idealistic millennial who secretly joins the CIA hoping to reform it from within, but when everyone in his office is massacred by professional killers, this brilliant analyst is forced out of his ivory tower think tank and into battle with the most dangerous elements in the military-industrial complex. If he is to have any chance of surviving, Joe will have to do things he never imagined himself capable of, and discover that no one knows their true character until they've been tested under fire. And I have to say, the first two episodes of this I've seen, and they're very well made and terrific acting. The leading parts are played by Max Irons plays Joe Turner from an acting dynasty. His mother is Sinead Cusack and his father Jeremy Irons, and splendid leading man he is too. He is very, very good. Also in the cast is Myra Sorvino, and a favourite of mine, I think, is one of well, he's not unsung because he's a big star, but William Hurt, who I think is one of the finest actors working in America, and he brings to a part extraordinary qualities, I think, and here he is in this doing his thing, and he does it very well indeed. So that is my recommendation. Catch it if you can. It's on Universal, is the platform in the UK, but whatever platform you listen to your TV on, worldwide or whatever, I'm sure you'll be able to find it. Condor.
Yeah, and as a listener to Partners in Crime, you can get a free ebook if you've not bought a book from Kobo before. Well, not free, actually. It's 90% off, but it's virtually free. Head over to kobo.com, find a book of your choice, and if you enter the promo code CRIME at the checkout, then you get 90% off, thanks to the lovely folk at Kobo. Should just mention as well, I was looking in the news earlier today, and we've been talking quite a lot about the Rebus stage play, which opened at Birmingham Rep and has gone on tour. And we saw in the news that Charles Lawson, who was playing Rebus, unfortunately got quite ill actually playing Rebus. He collapsed.
I think he had a slight stroke, and
he did. Yeah.
Best wishes to Charlie and for a speedy recovery.
Yes, yeah, I was going to say, they went on tour to they took it to Edinburgh. And he fell quite ill during a scene there. But he's been speaking on BBC Breakfast about it. Apparently, he was he made a quick recovery. It's what they call a trans-ischemic attack.
Yes,
I've witnessed somebody having one before. It's not very nice, but apparently later that day he started to make a recovery, and hopefully we'll see him back on our stage and screen soon.
Yes, I hope so too. He's a very fine actor.
Yes. We also have a very fine guest this week. Shall we crack on with that?
I think so. Looking forward to this one. Who is allowed access to a crime scene? What happens when a body is discovered? Will a blood transfusion alter DNA? How can the distribution of gunshot residue inform your plot? The Real CSI, a forensic handbook for crime writers, answers these questions and more in a unique and exclusive insight into crime scene investigation. Using real-life examples and case studies, experienced CSI Kate Bendelow shines a light behind the yellow tape and debunks the myths popularised by the CSI effect. Each chapter explores the latest procedures in contemporary practice, including crime scene access and preservation, fingerprints and DNA profiling, footwear, trace evidence, fire scenes, drugs and toxicology, firearms, and Uncle Tom Cobley and all. Kate Bendelow has been a serving crime scene investigator with Greater Manchester Police for 15 years, during which time she's worked on countless crime scenes ranging from burglary, armed robbery to rape, arson and murder. Kate also delivers lectures with a hugely successful crime fiction masterclasses, therefore writers seeking inside knowledge into crime scene procedures and a lot more. And she's also a creative writer in her own right and a performance poet. I have seen her in striking action recently at the Morecambe and Vice Crime Festival, where she was with the crime fiction masterclasses and doing a splendid job. So it's a delight to welcome Kate to the show. Hello, Kate. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me on today.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us. Now, first of all, let's start. The introduction there was for your book, A Forensic Handbook to Crime Writers. Can you tell us a bit about how you came to write it and the effect that you think the book may have had?
Absolutely. It actually came about writing the book by accident. I started my writing career around 2013, 2014, doing poetry. And as a result, I attended my local writing group where I met a lady who set me up with Swanwick Writers' School, which is the longest running writers' school in the country. We celebrated our 70th year this year. So whatever we're doing there, we're doing something right because people keep coming back. The second year I attended Swanwick, I obviously told a lot of the writers what I did, and a lot of the crime writers were very, very interested in CSI techniques. So I offered to return the following year and presented a course on techniques for crime writers, so they knew how to add authenticity and accuracy into the writing. The course was so well received, it blew me away. I wasn't expecting the sort of overwhelming positive feedback I got. And as a result of that, a couple of members of the Swanwick Writing School suggested to me, why don't you write a book? Basically covering everything you've talked about in your course. So I did, and that's how the book came to life. As I say, it was never really my intention to write it. It just seemed a great opportunity. I'm so glad I did. I enjoyed writing it. I've actually gone full circle with what I actually intended my writing career to be. Obviously, I do poetry, and I started writing wanting to write children's books. I soon found that the one thing I can't write is children's books. And actually, a few weeks ago, my eldest daughter, said to me, "Mommy, why do you not write children's books?" I said, "Because I like swearing and death too much, love." And yeah, I've sort of gravitated to the dark side. The book's been... Yeah, sorry, come on.
No, I was just saying, I mean, the book has been a huge success and become a vital handbook to crime writers. Adam, you
yes. Yeah. Well, when...
is holding your book. Actually, we do this now. We've got your book here, and we do this now. We actually like our listeners to hear a book, and here it is.
Yeah,
that's your book.
It even sounds like a good book, doesn't it?
It does sound like a good book.
But no, it has been absolutely invaluable. And when Bob said that he'd organised an interview with you, Kate, I was very excited because I thought I know that name from somewhere, and I looked on the bookshelf beside me, and there it was, the Real CSI, well thumbed, well highlighted, and it's been highly beneficial to me. It's absolutely packed with information. But I know from kind of speaking to people who've been involved in the same line of work as you did as a crime scene investigator with Greater Manchester Police, that there is so much, and there are so many kind of small nuances that are involved with the job. Did you find it difficult to actually try and pack it all into one book?
Yeah, very difficult. I mean, obviously, as well, it goes without saying that there are certain things that you sort of can't share and make public knowledge. So, yeah. And that was one of the things I was sort of keen to highlight to my bosses when I told them I was planning on writing a book. I was very upfront and said, you're more than welcome to sort of read the first draft or whatever before it goes to publication, and made a point of saying I wasn't sharing anything in there that wasn't already in the public domain. Trying to condense it is quite difficult because, I mean, I wanted to write something that was basically a guide that writers could pick up, thumb through, like you say, find the information they need and put down. I wanted it to be an easy read rather than a real sort of heavy textbook that's had to, so getting that balance right was sort of quite tricky. Ideally, the book itself is only relatively slim. Ideally, it could be sort of five times the size it is, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. I want it to be a sort of easy guide, if you like.
Dip in and dip out.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
So apart from your life as a writer and a lecturer and poet, of course, you haven't sold your ladders because you still have the day job.
I do, yeah.
Which, again, is something that... the question I wanted to ask this week, obviously with the Susie Lamplough case coming into the headlines again. I mean, obviously a case, every murder or abduction or disappearance is a traumatic and terrible thing in its own way. But the Lamplow case has, because it's been unanswered and there's been no end in it, has haunted a generation since it happened. So, and here we are again in 2018, and there is obviously a CSI investigation going on in Birmingham. Would you have any insight into where they would be or what procedures they'd be using at this moment in time?
It's difficult to know. I'm not familiar with what sort obviously the investigation that they've got going on at the moment. Obviously new information has come to light, so any opportunities there really just to unearth any new sort of DNA evidence, any form of forensic evidence whatsoever. It's very difficult to comment on a case that, obviously without knowing the ins and outs of it and that sort of stuff. They can be very complex as well. As I say, it does depend if new information's come to light, and obviously the timeline now that you're looking at, because it's been going on for so long. Finding new evidence is obviously going to be harder because evidence does age. That's
what I was thinking. I mean, is it the time does take its toll on the possibility of retrieving useful evidence, so that they'll be fighting that, I suppose. But
that said, I mean, we're looking now at DNA profiling techniques. We're looking at DNA 17, which is really, really super sensitive. So, there's every chance that whatever they are looking for and that they will recover might come into fruition. Let's hope so anyway.
Well, yes, let's hope there's some completion on that for all involved. But so now, from writing this book, you then, who got the idea together for your master classes? Because they're absolutely splendid and they're hugely popular. You've got one coming up this weekend, and we'll mention that in a little bit. Tell us how that came to be. I mean,
we sort of, obviously the master classes run with him. He's a good friend of your show, Graham Bartlett, the
excellent, marvellous Graham. Yes,
Neil White and Erin Kelly. I met Erin Kelly at the aforementioned Swanwick Writer Summer School when Erin was one of our guest tutors, and we got chatting, and I sort of told her my background in CSI and what have you, and we swapped details because obviously Erin works a lot with killer women and similar events. So she said they might be running something that I could get on board with. Long story short, she was already liaising with Neil and Graham for ideas of a book, and Erin got us together. And our first masterclass we put on was with The Guardian, and we've done a few with The Guardian now. They've always been hugely successful. We absolutely loved doing them. For us, it's the opportunity to be able to combine our two passions for our day job along with our writing. It's such great fun. I mean, you can't call it work, really. We do enjoy doing our master classes. It's such good fun. It gives me an opportunity to pick on Graham, which is always an added bonus. Basically, after doing the sort of, I think we've done one or two Guardian master classes, and I think it was Neil White who sort of suggested, why don't we do these master classes off our own bat and sort of put ourselves together as CF masterclasses and tour the country and get on the road and spread the word.
Well, I've seen you, as a Sapling book. I mean, it's quite wonderful. In fact, I had the dubious honour of being invited to be a dead body in your masterclass.
Right,
I couldn't make it in the end, and I sort of regret it.
It's a shame.
No, but there's plenty of time. I'm very happy to turn up and be a dead body for you whenever.
Only because he doesn't have to learn any lines. That's why.
Yes. The difficulty with being a dead body on stage is that you have to appear that you not to breathe, and that brings with it its own sort of challenges. It's sort of making sure that your diaphragm remains still.
I remember playing Paris once on stage and having to lie there for about 15 minutes at the end of Romeo and Juliet. So I'd been killed, and then that thing with the Friar Lawrence comes on and does that annoying thing that happens in Shakespeare plays where they tell you at the start what's going to happen, then you see what happens, and then someone comes on at the end and tells you what you've just seen.
Yes.
And I had to lie there dead while that was going on. I fell asleep twice.
Well, yourself, everybody watches the dead body to see if they move.
Yes.
Just so they can then criticise them for moving.
Yep.
So,
did you
but
say
if
that?
either of you are hanging around Cambridge on Saturday, then feel free to come and show us your dead body.
Your dead body.
That would be amazing.
I can remember doing a play called Sweeney Todd years ago, and one of the actors, I won't mention his name, was killed in the play, and had to lie there for about 10 minutes. And on one particular, I think we were in Birmingham at the Alexandra, one particular performance, he got the giggles. And he couldn't stop laughing. And we had all this stuff about he's dead, or he's definitely dead, who killed him, oh, the remorse, and all that sort of thing. And halfway through this scene I was playing, you could actually see him crawling off stage. So I wouldn't recommend him for your master classes. So that's extraordinary. Tell us a little bit about Cambridge. Where are you on Saturday, and what time do you start?
Yeah, we're at the Wesley Methodist Centre in Cambridge, and it starts at 10 o'clock.
Fantastic. And so for anyone interested in as you say, it's a very broad base. You all have your particular areas of expertise. Yours obviously is forensic, Graham is procedure and whatever, and you have Erin and Neil, of course, looking from the legal side of things, and Erin as a best-selling crime novelist. So the four of you together have a huge amount of wisdom to offer people who are interested in this thing, and it's particularly of interest, I should imagine, to people who are wanting to write or are writing crime fiction themselves. So there you have it. It's in Cambridge this week. It's not too late to get tickets, I hope. And so hopefully, if you're interested in that area and you're listening to this, get up to Cambridge. If not, where can people find out about your master classes?
We haven't yet decided where we're going to be heading next year, but we do have a Facebook page, CF Masterclasses, and we are also on Twitter as CF Masterclasses. So we are quite easy to find. If not, then obviously our own personal profiles are both on Facebook and Twitter. As I say, we hope to get back on the road again next year, but we've not decided where yet. This year's just been so busy. I mean, we had our home masterclass in Brighton early in the year, and then obviously we've had Theakston's. I did Bloody Scotland. We've had Morecambe and Vice. It's been a really, really good year. Busy but good.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. And that's CF Masterclasses on Facebook.
That's right.
And Twitter, yes. for listeners. And do hook up with those people listening to this because they're fascinating sites. Okay, now, it's not just fact, is it? You're actually, I believe, writing crime fiction yourself now. Tell us a bit about that.
I'm very, very excited about it. The series I'm currently writing at the moment is based around my protagonist, Maya Barton, and I intended a trilogy for Maya. I've just written the first novel, and it's just got a couple more tweaks before it goes off to the land of agents. Oh. So I'm hoping somebody's going to sort of be as keen about it as I am. It's basically a police procedural with a difference. Obviously, my main protagonist, Maya, is a serving SOCO. So I write more about sort of how it is to investigate crime scenes, that sort of thing, and basically what it's like to be a SOCO, and it covers a lot. The novel explores sort of the banter in the office and the office mindset, that sort of stuff. This first novel sees Maya starting out in her career as a SOCO, and she investigates a sudden death, which initially appears non-suspicious, but Maya starts to realise that maybe these deaths that are happening to a lot of well-known, notorious criminals across the force might be suspicious after all.
Oh, and what's the novel called?
It's under the working title SOCO Sudden Death.
SOCO Sudden Death. Well, any of our listeners out there, it's not going to take long for you to find an agent and get that published.
I hope so.
Well, no, not with your credentials, and but hopefully many people will be after the rights to publish that. We wish you well with that, and I can't wait to read it. And lastly, your performance poetry. Do you get a chance to actually get out there and do gigs with that?
That's the only thing I'd say the last 12 months, because I've been so busy with writing a novel and obviously working, children get in the way as well. They take up quite a lot of time. They're quite an expensive hobby and what have you, aren't they? So that's the one thing, unfortunately, my performance poetry has fallen by the wayside, but I've still got the passion to sort of do it, and it's something I do want to pick up and continue with, but sort of something has to give at the moment, so we'll see.
Well, it's the performer in you. You've read that delicious poem of yours at Morecambe, which I won't ask you to do because it's deliciously naughty.
It is very, very naughty.
And had the whole of the Winter Gardens in fits of laughter. But it was very clear from that you're a natural performer as well. So it seems to me that your life balance is pretty good at the moment. You're managing to get all those particular talents: writing, your science work, your police work, your lecturing work, the whole thing, in a pretty good balance. So thanks for joining us and talking to us. It's been such good fun. So glad you could make the show, and best of luck with everything. And we'll both see you on the circuit very soon, I hope. But have fun in Cambridge this Saturday.
Thanks very much, and thanks for the opportunity, guys.
So that is this Saturday, the Cambridge Crime Masterclass, or tomorrow if you're listening to this on release day.
Yes, and great talking to Kate. She's, she wears so many hats and wears them all splendidly. In fact, if you met her, you'd say if they did a dramatisation or whatever, she'd be absolutely perfect. She'd probably be able to act a part of a leading lady in the book that she's just finished writing. So wishing her luck with that, and thanking her for coming on and explaining what she does. It's the side of the crime which people have become increasingly more fascinated with over the years. We've obviously CSI, the American series, which, strangely enough, an awful lot of professionals in this country sort of raise their eyebrows at and tut, and I'm sure with absolute justification. But with books like Kate's Forensic Handbook, and of course Val's wonderful book on forensics, there's no excuse for writers to get things wrong, I suppose, in their crime novels.
It's interesting if you're a crime reader as well, and just a generally interested person. It's fascinating seeing how these crimes are really solved. So the Real CSI, a forensic handbook for crime writers by Kate Bendelow, described by Linda LaPlante as every crime writer should have a copy of this book on their desk. So
well, you have.
Well, I have. So, I'm only one crime writer, but if you...
I've got mine on electronic.
Yes, which leads me in nicely. I was going to say, if you want to get a copy of that book, then do consider buying that on Kobo. Head over to kobo.com, find the Real CSI by Kate Bendelow, and if you enter the promo code CRIME at the checkout, they'll give you 90% off if it's your first purchase.
Well, this Halloween week...
It is Halloween as we record this.
Yes, it is Halloween. You are bracing yourself, and I'm bracing myself, not far away from here, for Family 4. The barrage upon the door. The stocks of sweets are in the hallway waiting.
Well, I'm going out at 6, so...
You're going to miss it all.
I'm going out, yeah.
Well, there we are. What are you doing? Oh, you're rehearsing, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
on your broomstick and off you go.
That's it. Yeah. Yes. So I'm sure a few of the younger children will come round first of all, when I can, poke them in the eye and close the door again. So.
Well, we'll be having a little party at ours because our children have always had a little Halloween party. And the fact that they're now 18, 15 and 12 makes no difference. They still want the full works.
What are you going dressed as?
I am going dressed. Strange enough, I've just done this short film this week, playing someone who's a little poorly, and I had this extraordinary makeup on, which made me look like... was it Uncle
Fester?
Uncle
right.
Fester. So I think
so you're redoing that, are you?
I think. Well, I've got the. I'm follically challenged. I've got the round face. In my household, there's plenty of makeup, so all I have to do is go for the website.
You've got the empty look in your eyes. That's as well.
Do my top button up on my shirt. And here I am. It's an easy call.
It's a cop out, is what it is.
Yes, it's a lazy Halloween contribution on my part.
Speaking of cop outs, I think that will do.
Diddly dum.
Partners in Crime was presented by Adam Croft and Robert Dawes and produced by Adam Croft. The theme tune was by the Caesareans. The Partners in Crime logo and imagery were designed by Stuart Beisch. Partners in Crime is sponsored by Kobo, your favourite local bookshop, perfected.